December 7th, 1941. A date that will live in infamy. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor brought America into the Second World War, and to the people of America, especially those on the West Coast, a sweeping sense of paranoia. That paranoia reared its most ugly head in the form of the Japanese internment camps, but that's a topic for another day. Instead, today, we're going to focus on one of the strangest incidents brought about by this paranoia. The incident that is known as the Battle of Los Angeles. Flash forward to February 1942. The nation is in full war mode now as operations in the Pacific and North Africa start to begin. But back home, the people of Southern California and Alaska were facing a different enemy. Fear. A fear of invasion. Now, whilst the idea of an invasion of the United States seems almost impossible today, back in the early 30s, it was a somewhat real threat. The army wasn't that large. In fact, it was World War II that made the army into, well, what it is today. And it's not like these fears were entirely baseless. Immediately after the attack on Pearl Harbor, rumors began to fly all across the West Coast. And much like the school threat rumors, which seem to oddly plague southeastern Ohio, these rumors were sometimes taken a bit too seriously. A rumor around the San Francisco Bay Area led to Oakland closing its schools, enforcing a blackout, ordering radio silence, and having police cars equipped with air raid sirens patrol the streets. I'm sure all the people who worked night shift in I'm sure the night shift workers of Oakland got plenty of sleep that day. The city of Seattle also enforced a blackout, but this took a turn for the worse when the business owners who refused to participate in the festivities had their businesses
bum-fucked by
mob of around 2,000 Seattleites. Little did they know the same thing would happen almost 80 years later. In Hollywood, 500 soldiers were sent to Walt Disney Studios' parking lot to protect the building from possible sabotage.
Wow, look at those nice white shoes!
But it wasn't just rumors that were flying around. In fact, many Japanese submarines had sent torpedoes flying at U.S. merchant ships, a full list of which I will show now. What really put the icing on the cake, however, is what happened on the night of February 23rd, just a day before the battle that I've taken way too long to talk about. At around 7:15 at night, during one of FDR's fireside chats, a Japanese submarine, I-17 to be Pacific, shelled the Elwood oil field near Santa Barbara. Whilst the damage was laughably minimal, only being around $8,000 in today's money, it still scared the shit out of the populace, and it made the threat of a Japanese D-Day seem very real. Although, to their credit, less than 4 months after the battle, which I am about to start talking about, just bear with me, the Japanese did actually happen to invade Alaska. But I'll cover that sometime in the future. Okay. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. The battle! On the night of February 24th, the Office of Naval Intelligence issued a warning that an attack on California could have been possible within the next 10 hours. Throughout the night, what were described as blinking lights and flares were spotted all throughout the skies of Southern California. Nothing came of this initial warning, however, and the alert was lifted at around 10:30 at night. And so, the people of Los Angeles rested easily in their beds, preparing for the day ahead of them when at 2:25, air raid sirens screamed across the city as thousands of air raid wardens hurriedly swung into positions. At 3:16, the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade fired the first shots of the battle, lighting up the sky with 50 cals and 12.8-pound anti-aircraft shells at what they reported to be enemy aircraft. Over 1,400 shells would be fired at night. Shots continued to be fired sporadically until around 4:14 a.m., and the sirens finally went quiet at 7:21 a.m. 5 people died indirectly that night. 3 were from car accidents and the ensuing chaos, with the other being attributed to heart attacks caused by the stress of the raid. Before I get into the damage property-wise, I feel I should explain the way that anti-aircraft shells work. For those of you who live around here, so the way that they work is that when they are fired, the shell has an internal fuse in it, and that fuse is, it's a timed fuse, right? So the shell goes up, and then after a set time, explodes into a fuck ton of shrapnel, right? Well, all that shrapnel doesn't just, despawn or anything. It goes up, and so it must come down. And it did. Numerous homes, businesses, and cars were damaged by the falling shrapnel, although surprisingly, no people were. I'm sure you've probably already realized there was something a little fishy about what I just said. What was it again? Oh yeah, there were never any fucking planes. Those 1,400 shells fired at nothing. There were never any planes over Los Angeles that night. Never any. There were never any planes detected by radar. Besides that, no bombs were ever dropped. No planes were ever downed. There was nothing. It was as if nothing was ever even there. But something had to be there, right? I mean, there's no way that over 1,000 air raid wardens would just fire at nothing. At hallucinations, would they? I mean, what the fuck were they firing at? Minecraft phantoms? That the fuckers just forgot to sleep in the past few days? Well, there have been some theories about what happened that night. I'll start off with the government ones, which are, they're bullshit. And then we'll get into the ones, one. That's the whole reason why I made this video in the first place. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, the Japanese government also said after the war that they never flew any planes over Los Angeles, at all. Although, considering their denial of certain events, I don't think they should be considered the most credible source on what they did in the war. That's it. A few hours after the raid, Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox I wonder if he rings held a press conference, chalking the whole thing up to anxiety and war nerves. Because, yes, anxiety and war nerves causes over 1,000 people to fire over 1,000 shots into the air at nothing. General George C. Marshall in the Army, however, believed that it was actually carried out by Japanese spies in normal commercial planes as a sort of psychological warfare. Because it somehow makes more sense for Japanese spies to just steal random ass planes and just fly them over fucking Los Angeles knowing they're going to get shot at for psychological reasons, rather than fly an actual, sortie of planes equipped with bombs and, guns and things to cause, actual damage on top of the psychological warfare that just an attack on a city would bring. Almost immediately, the press suspected a cover-up, with theories about the incident ranging from a secret airbase in Mexico to a giant submarine that could hold planes and act as an aircraft carrier, which was a real thing, actually. Look it up. And a speculation that the whole thing was staged and used as an excuse to allow the coastal defense industries to move further inland. Wait a minute. The government? Staging an attack to justify or otherwise excuse an action? Nah, they would never do that. They would... No, that's... No. The U.S. government... No, that's not something they would ever do. Representative Leland M. Ford of Santa Monica even found the whole thing to be suspicious enough to call for a congressional investigation, stating, quote, "None of the explanations so far offered remove the episode from the category of anything but complete mystification. This was either a practice raid or a raid to throw a scare into 2 million people, or a mistaken identity raid, or a raid to lay a political foundation to take away Southern California's war industries." End quote.
Later on, in
1983, the U.S. Office of Air Force History concluded that the actual cause was none other than, drumroll please,
weather balloons.
Yep. They fucking blamed it on weather balloons. Exactly like they did in Roswell. Speaking of Roswell, let's move on to the theory that was the whole reason why I made this video. You see, the Battle of Los Angeles has become infamous in UFOlogy as one of the most prominent cases of extraterrestrial visitation, at least according to them. Second only possibly to the Phoenix Lights incident. Don't worry, I'll get to you later. And Roswell. The famous photograph that most people associate with the event has often been said to depict searchlights lighting up an alien spacecraft, although this perception is likely due to the extensive photo retouching that was commonplace at the time to increase contrast in black and white photos. The incident in this context has remained ingrained in American pop culture, being used as the inspiration for the 2011 film Battle of Los Angeles. And so, the mystery still stands. Just what exactly occurred in the skies over Los Angeles on the morning of February 25th, 1942? Was it a case of mistaken identity? A paranoid grunt crew with an itchy trigger finger? A government cover-up? Or something that may be better left understood? Or something that may be better left unanswered? All I know is this is just one more reason not to visit California. No, seriously, fuck California. I fucking hate that stupid state. Their goddamn fucking neighborhoods and bold action fucking ARs and stupid upper middle class sense of fucking entitlement. I fucking hate California. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate California. Standing here, I realize you were just like me, trying to make history. But who can judge the right from wrong? When our God is down, I think we'll both agree that violence breeds violence. But in the end, it has to be this way. Oh, bye.
Terrain.